let's recap. Let's recapitulate what we've been discussing about the organs of speech. In the previous presentation, we said that the air coming from the lungs passes through the trachea, and then at the top of the trachea is the larynx. So it goes through the larynx, and that air goes through the vocal cords lying across the center of the larynx. That sound generated at the vocal cords goes on and it's amplified or resonated in 3 chambers: the pharynx, the mouth or oral cavity, and the nose or nasal cavity. So, the oral cavity or mouth, the pharynx, and the nose act as resonators. That is to say, that sound generated at the vocal cords resonates in these chambers. Some sounds resonate in English in the mouth, and they are oral. For example, the sound p, as in pen, it resonates in the mouth. And some sounds in English are nasal because they resonate in the nose. For example, mm. Okay, of the 3 chambers, we'll focus on the mouth or oral cavity. The oral cavity or mouth is bordered by the tongue at the bottom, the palate at the top, the lips, cheeks, and teeth at the front and sides. So we have the upper lip, upper teeth, lower teeth. By opening and closing the jaw and pulling the tongue backwards and forwards, the oral cavity can be made larger or smaller. Now, we should bear in mind that when we move the lower jaw, our tongue, lower teeth, and lower lip will move together with the lower jaw, while the upper teeth and upper lip are in a fixed position. For descriptive purposes, it's convenient to divide the roof of the mouth into 3 parts: the alveolar ridge, the hard palate, and the soft palate. The alveolar ridge is that prominence or lumpy area behind the upper teeth. You can feel it with the tip of your tongue. The hard palate is hard because it's bony, it's made of bone, immovable, and it lies above the center of the mouth. And the soft palate is that soft and fleshy area capable of being raised or lowered. And at the extreme end of the soft palate, we have the uvula. These parts are observable by means of a mirror. If you open your mouth wide, you can see your palate, hard palate, soft palate, the uvula, and the back wall you can see there is the pharynx. Of all the movable organs in the mouth, the tongue is by far the most flexible one, and it's capable of assuming a great variety of positions in the articulation of vowels and consonants. It's a complex muscular structure which, for descriptive purposes, is divided into different sections. Let's have a look at this figure. Let's imagine this is a typical figure of our head, a vocal tract, seen from the side as if our head had been cut in half. This is the tongue lying at the bottom of your mouth. The very point of the tongue is known as the tip. The part of the tongue which narrows to the tip is the blade, which faces the alveolar ridge. That part which lies under the hard palate is the front of the tongue. The front of the tongue lies under the hard palate. And then we have the back of the tongue, which lies under the soft palate or velum. So, let's explain this again. For descriptive purposes, we can divide the tongue into different parts. Why are we doing this? Because we need this in order to classify sounds later on. The tip of the tongue, the blade of the tongue, the blade lies across the alveolar ridge. The front of the tongue, which lies under the hard palate, and then the back of the tongue, which lies across the soft palate or velum. And then, of course, we have the root of the tongue. Now, we can distinguish between active articulators and passive articulators. We say that the articulators are active when they can move, when they are capable of movement. For example, the tongue, you can move your tongue up and down, backwards and forwards. Try doing it. The soft palate, that fleshy, soft part of your palate, you can touch it. And your lips, you can move your lips. So they are active articulators. While your teeth, upper teeth, lower teeth, the alveolar ridge, that lumpy area behind your upper teeth, and the hard palate can't move. So they are called passive articulators. So, if we have to summarize what we've said about the organs of speech, we can, let's have a look at this figure. We can say that the air coming from the lungs passes through the trachea, then the larynx, which is at the top of the trachea. Inside the larynx we find the vocal cords. The glottis is the opening between the vocal cords. That sound generated at the vocal cords is amplified, resonated in the pharynx, in the mouth, or in the nose. Now you can see here the epiglottis. We haven't talked about the epiglottis. Why? The epiglottis is not involved in the production of sounds in English. Its function is mainly to fold over the glottis to prevent food or drink from going through the larynx. So it guides food and drink into the esophagus. Now, the pharynx is a resonator, the mouth is another resonator, and the nose another resonance chamber. Some sounds will resonate in the mouth, in English, and some sounds in the nose. We can identify different parts in the tongue for descriptive purposes. Tip of the tongue, the blade of the tongue line across the alveolar ridge, front of the tongue line across the hard palate, and the back of the tongue line across the soft palate. We said that the soft palate can move. It's an active articulator, together with the tongue and the lips. Why do we say that the soft palate is an active articulator? Because it can go up and down. It can be raised or lowered. When it's raised, it blocks the entrance to the nose. And this is what happens unconsciously when we produce oral sounds, so that the sounds resonate in the mouth, because the soft palate is raised and blocks the passage to the nose. But, for example, when we say the soft palate is lowered, so the sound resonates in the nose because the entrance is not blocked. The soft palate has been lowered, so the sound resonates in the nose and it's nasal. Well, next class we'll classify sounds, paying attention to the position of the vocal cords, paying attention to the resonance, place of articulation, and manner of articulation. See you next time.